You do great stuff with Lego. And speaking of analogies, you've worked with this idea. I don't think anything describes data better than just sort of the Lego premise.
It's like the perfect analogy.
But you've taken it to new heights there. Just share some of the things you've done with it.
Yeah, well, a big part, as you know, of getting your organization to operate effectively, especially when it comes to elevating your data acumen, your data literacy, your data fluency, whatever you want to, your data culture. It's really important to bring people together and talk about best practices around management of data, the importance of data, the idea that data is strategic and not just the tactical oil.
Forget oil. We hate data's the new oil. We hate that one.
So we're not going to say that. So we want to get people away from that thinking and get them thinking more strategically. And so I've done events using Lego as the analogy. And a really good example, as we were getting our data warehouse environment off the ground, we really didn't want just our tech and our data people to be the experts. We really need the whole business to embrace their responsibility in having a good, clean, well-oiled data environment.
Oil, well, you're using oil in the right way there.
At least I'm using it the right way.
Yes.
And so what we did was we brought in our business groups, and we wanted to demonstrate the importance of this data classification, this having a clean data dictionary, having our environment set up correctly. So we did a challenge. We called it the Lego Data Challenge, and we divided the group into two different teams, put them in two different rooms where they couldn't see each other, and we gave them instructions on how to build something out of Legos.
The same thing.
The same thing.
Okay.
They were both building the same little rocket ship, right? And they had instructions that told them how to do it. And it was a pretty significant. It wasn't like a small thing. They were building a pretty significant piece that was going to take some time to do. Well, one group had a big bin full of Legos. Just Legos.
Classic, just
in a big bin,
yeah.
Colors, shape, size, everything mixed and matched all together. The other group had little cubby holes, and the Legos were all perfectly organized by color, shape, size, and form. And so the idea was to figure out which group would finish first. Which group do you think finished first?
I think the one that had it sorted already, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, the other one's still working on it.
Exactly. and the point was, and this was part of the pitch of getting them to buy into, hey, why don't we shut down our highway and spend time organizing our data? This helped get people to understand, I get it. The better organized we are, the more quickly we can build things. And that was how we proved that, yes, after we go through this period, we will commit to building our environment faster and better. And here's the proof. You saw, working with unstructured Legos,
right,
much more difficult than working with Legos that are perfectly organized.
Yeah, it's very simple. Again, it's the kind of thing that people can relate to. Doesn't matter what part of the organization they're in, they all, play with this stuff one way or the other. Are you impressed with this?
Very impressed.
Very impressed.
It looks like a staircase, but with one diagonal.
It's kind of an abstract thing, I mean, when I was growing up, that was a cool piece.
That was a cool piece.
Right? That was a cool piece there. So,
yeah.
But talk a little bit about your storytelling. Because
Sure.
how many books have you written? How many novels?
I've got 14 novels.
14 novels.
Mm-hmm. So that's my side gig. I work in,
Here's your latest one here, right?
Yes, that's right.
BlackBerry, on sale now.
Yep, just out 2.5, 3 weeks ago.
Oh, awesome.
Yep, and doing very well.
Wonderful.
So as a side career, I am an author, a novelist, and I write fictional novels. Some are romantic comedies, family dramas, like my latest, BlackBerry. Some are, more hardcore thrillers with CIA and FBI and terrorists run around, shooting at each other. And they do really well.
Yeah, good, yeah. Wonderful. And it's a great outlet for you, but you combine all that, I know, in your work, that ability to convey a message, that ability to just capture people's attention and imagination. It's really a talent that I think, you excel at.
It's all about storytelling in a way that gets people to understand a concept that they might not normally have understood had you explained it in detail. But if you use analogies, or if you use characters, or if you use, parallel kind of concepts that they do understand, and then relate them to more complex, situations that they don't understand as well, they can make those connections. And storytelling is all about helping people make connections.
And get to the next point. Get to that next place. I mean, you think about enterprises, they work a lot on process.
Yep.
They work a lot on sort of defined steps, but you can accelerate a process with a great story. A story can change people's minds faster than a process step that you go through in a lot of cases.
I do a whole training on business storytelling in my business. And, I talk about characters, setting, plot. I talk about the arc, the arc of a story where the story comes to its conclusion. And, I relate that to business storytelling. So if I'm going to tell you a business story, if I'm going to try to influence you to change your thinking, first thing I have to do is create the characters. Mm-hmm. Who am I talking about? Are we talking about our clients? Are we talking about our partners? Are we talking about our suppliers? Who are the characters that are part of this story? Mm-hmm. Okay. What's the setting? Are we talking about our business? Are we talking about the marketplace? Are we talking about, our supply chain? What is the setting of the story? Every story needs a conflict. What is the conflict? In business, what's the problem we're trying to solve? Mm-hmm. That's the conflict. So you've got characters, setting, conflict in storytelling, and you've got that in business influencing. And then ultimately, every story which has a conflict has to have a plot. Like, what are the actions that are going to take place to resolve that conflict? And then it has a resolution. How are we going to solve this problem? And so I tell people, when you go in to speak to a COO or a CEO or a CFO, or you go in to speak to leadership of your organization, think about your characters, your setting, your conflict, your plot, the actions that you want to happen, and what resolution you're expecting, and present it as a story. You're going to make much better headway than if you go in with charts and numbers and kind of a random assortment of information.
And what a lot of data people do, the process you took to get your random assortment of information, they love to talk about how they did it rather than why it's important.
Yeah. Or
where it's going to take that organization.
Exactly. It should be all about that overwhelming benefit that you're going to achieve by resolving this conflict. That's what the story is always about.
Overwhelming benefit. That's the point. I think that's a big takeaway we can take away from this. Greg McLaughlin, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us. BlackBerry on sale now. You can take a look at that.
Yep, Amazon.com.
Amazon.com, you know where to find it. But thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you, Scott. Always a pleasure.